you doing? Why are you crying? Why are you always crying? Why are you always crying? Hey everyone, welcome to another Aloy build vlog, where today I'm going to be talking about all of the mistakes that I'm going to be correcting today. So I know you guys are no stranger to me making mistakes on this channel, and I made a couple of mistakes on these pieces that I finished for Aloy already. And this is why I really enjoy the fact that I film things and I also take a lot of progress photos, because there was just something off about the vest that I made for Aloy whenever I was looking back at the footage, and I couldn't figure out what it was until I looked at some reference photos of Aloy that I have in a notebook that I should be referencing whenever I'm working on stuff. It just slipped my mind. This happens a lot whenever I'm in the flow of working on stuff. So in short, the issue is really easy to fix, and that's why I am really glad that I am taking the time to start this build as far back as I am, because I make a lot of mistakes and I'm not as stressed having to, fix them and whatever. So the issue is pretty simple, but whenever I'm looking back at my footage, I'm like, oh, no wonder I missed this. The sleeve caps that are on her vest, what I originally did was I sewed the sleeve kind of like you would a traditional sleeve. I sewed it along the armholes, and I couldn't figure out why the caps were like really kind of sticking out very far. They kind of looked like shoulder pads, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. Whenever I went back to my reference photos, I noticed that the sleeve caps, instead of being sewn along the armhole, they need to be sewn with the seam that's kind of going down the front. So that's a really easy fix to do. I'm just gonna go ahead and seam rip those sleeves out, and then we'll piece them back together. And then the other thing I need to correct is really just something that I wasn't happy with whenever I finished the brown linen shirt that goes underneath. I ended up making the sleeves just a little bit too short, and they're kind of a little bit tight here in the area, and I've been kind of doing a lot of strength training, and I know that, well, I'm hoping that my arms are only going to get bigger. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those sleeves out of the brown linen shirt, gonna cut out some larger sleeves and then sew those in. And then for the detailing along the actual bottom of the sleeves, I decided that I'm going to use some embroidery floss instead of suede lace, because the suede lace wasn't really laying the way that I wanted it to. And in the reference photos, the stitching is a lot thinner. So I think embroidery floss is really going to look a lot better there. So that's what's going on with the beginning of this vlog. I'm just correcting a lot of mistakes that I should have noticed whenever I was working on it. But that's just the nature of how I work. I get into the zone and then I just miss details here and there. I guess you could probably say that's part of my ADHD, but I'm not making an excuse or anything. Just saying this is totally normal whenever you're working on something and you just get into the flow of stuff and you just miss some things. It's okay. I can go back. I have the time to go back and fix it. And that's what we're going to do today. To fix the sleeve caps, I'm first seam ripping them off the top and seam ripping down the front and back seams so that I can go ahead and sandwich the caps into the correct place. Once they're where I want them at, I'm going back in with some clips. So there is the sleeve and the side seam all clipped together. So let's flip it inside out and I'll show you kind of what it looks like. So that's what it's gonna look like whenever it's sewn down. There are going to be a couple of tiny holes on the underside of the armpit from where the caps were originally sewn, but you really have to be up close to see them, so it doesn't bother me all that much, and I'd rather have the sleeve caps in the right seam and where they should be. That's what it's supposed to look like. That looks so much better. Oh my god. So sometimes that's just what happens. You end up putting something together in the wrong order, and you know what? It's okay. We can fix it. That's exactly what I did here. This is how I know that I am improving as a maker. I know that sounds silly. I've been doing this for almost 7 years now at this point. I am just not a natural born sewer. The fact that you have to kind of do things backwards and put wrong sides together and sew things like that, it never really kind of made sense in my brain, but now I'm starting to think that maybe it does a little bit, and I just don't see it that way. Whenever I noticed that there was something wrong with this, I instantly knew what I needed to do in order to fix it. And this only took me about 45 minutes to fix, where I feel like in the past it would have taken me a lot longer. It's just one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, after the past 7 years of doing stuff like this, I have retained some knowledge. Yeah, I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna head to bed, and I guess in the morning I will be working on some of the sleeves for the brown shirt. So I've got the new sleeve caps sewn on here. However, whenever I put it onto my mannequin and whenever I looked at my footage later, and I'm sure you can probably see it here, these are not even, and that's okay. It's an easy fix. So what I'm gonna do is actually just cut this little extra bit here. Just gonna cut a little bit of the fabric off here, then seam rip this little spot again, clip it together, and then sew it back up, and hopefully it'll be good as new and it won't be as you know, uneven like this. To fix the uneven sleeve cap, I just cut away some of the suede from the longer side and start seam ripping that seam apart again so I can move the end of the cap into it and sandwich it into its new position. I then go ahead and clip it together and sew it up like that mistake had never even happened. And there it is, much better. It's a lot even, and as you can see, that wasn't really that hard of a fix. All I had to do was just kind of trace out where I wanted to cut and get it matched up to the other side. And that's just kind of how I work whenever I sew stuff. I know it's not conventional, but hey, gets the job done. With the sleeve caps all fixed and in place, it was finally time to go back and make the new sleeves for the brown undershirt. I took my original patterns and traced along the top as normal, but then I increased these sides by a lot, as you can see here with my chalk, so that they would be a lot wider and less tight on my upper arms. I then cut both of the sleeves out and sewed along the straight edge and turned them right side out to give me my sleeves. After trying them on and being satisfied with the fit, I then clipped the sleeves into the armholes of my shirt and sewed them into place. I then tried the shirt on once again, and yes, the shirt fabric here is slightly darker on the sleeves. When I weather it, it's not really going to matter, and I didn't want to go out and buy more fabric. I trace along the sleeve with chalk where I want the sleeves to end. I then cut the excess fabric off and fold the excess fabric underneath, and this is creating a hem on the sleeve, and I just go ahead and secure that with some clips, take it over to my sewing machine, and sew it all up. And now that the sleeves are all hemmed, I'm going to go ahead and hem the bottom of the shirt as well, because it's just one of those things that I've been putting off. The main reason I was putting it off is because I had to switch out the thread in my sewing machine, and I had to make a little bobbin of the dark brown thread. So now that that's in there, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my clips and just clip everything together and sew it all up. The hem of the shirt was done similarly to the sleeves, where I'm just folding fabric underneath itself and clipping it into place, and then I'm going ahead and securing it with a straight stitch on my sewing machine. And that's gonna be it for the end of this progress vlog. I know it was a lot of backtracking and fixing mistakes, but that's the reality of my progress, and that's what I ended up doing this week. Here he is. What are you doing? Why are you crying? Why are you always crying? Why are you always crying? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be back next week where I'll finally be adding all of the details to the vest and the shirt sleeves. Thank you so much again to my Patreon supporters, and if you would like to join them, you can head over to patreon.com/vaultfox. And as always, I will catch you guys next time. Bye!